September now, so Santa in September.
Yeah, Santa, Super Santa year round.
There you go. I'm looking at something over here in my garage. There's Bill. I'm looking at something over here in my garage that needs to be attached to my mailbox.
Yay! About time. Okay, guys. With you guys didn't expect us to have an actual Santa on the set, did you?
This gets attached to my mailbox in about a month.
Nice.
Awesome.
So
Nano Girl is in there. Hey, Mark. How's it going, buddy?
How are you?
Good. Well, we're running a little late today, folks, as you probably noticed. Today we have the writer and artist of a new novel, Super Santa, and it's my good friend Mookie Spitz and Rusty Usinoff. Guys, glad to have y'all.
Thank you for having us, Bill.
Oh, we're happy to have you. The Mark and Kyle haven't had the opportunity to read the book yet, but I will say this: it's fantastic, and I've been quoted already as saying that it's Santa Claus is Coming to Town meets Pulp Fiction, and it's an adult novel, but it's a real novel. It's real. It's like a Christmas special for adults is what I'd like to call it. But the characters are great. The story is great. It's going to be part of a trilogy, the fellas have told me, and I'll let you guys tell a little bit about the book and the story real quick, if you guys want to set it up for everybody.
Yeah, and can we introduce ourselves round robin? You know,
sure.
We obviously know you, Bill, but you know we got some new faces, new places on the live stream. We'd love to get to know you guys.
Okay, Mark Oldroyd is from London, England. He's a big time comic guy over there and good friend of ours. Kyle, ex-Marine, crazy mofo, and probably knows more about comics than anyone I've ever met in my life. And Mookie and Rusty, you guys know me, Bill Field. So that's where he is.
Hey, Mark and Kyle, nice to meet you virtually.
hey. And Gray Man behind the scenes.
Hi, Gray.
Hey, Greg.
Hey.
Gray, I hope everything's okay with you and Lisa.
Are you guys full-time comic creators, or is it a occasional income stream? Or
I couldn't hear you, Mark.
oh,
You got some stubborn Wi-Fi.
why not?
We're working out all the kinks now.
All right.
I hope. Say something, Mark.
Still can't hear me, can you?
There you go. You're
Yeah.
good.
Now we can.
Great.
Oh, you got that? Okay, right. So, yeah, guys, I was just asking if you were full-time comic creators or whether it was a hobby or just a occasional income.
Yeah, well, Rusty's a full-time animator and graphic artist, and I'm on the writer side of the house. So I'm a professional writer, was a freelance writer for years, and we've joined forces for Super Santa, and this is our first big release to the world as a partnership.
Okay, fantastic. And where about is it out, or is it coming out for Christmas?
Yeah, it's out already. It was just released on Amazon. We self-published. It came out the American Labor Day, and it was a labor of love for both of us. And it's the first book in a trilogy. So we're going to have another release in October, then November, and we're going to have a box set containing the entire story. The story and its execution got so big that we broke it up into 3 parts. We're releasing it as a serial, and the whole thing should be ready for the holiday season for 2023.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
So the first one's already out. Super
This one's
Santa,
out.
The Rise of Super Santa, which is basically the first act in a 3-act adventure.
And what's interesting is the characters are very real, Mark, in a lot of ways, but it's also a flight of fancy at the same time, which I think is refreshing and different. It's got over 180 illustrations in it. It reminds me kind of the Big Little books where you'd have a picture on almost every other page. And I'll tell you what, Rusty's done a wonderful job. The main characters are Jack and Diane, their kids, Super Santa, a few superheroes, a guy named Elf who actually happens to be an elf, and a bunch of kind of jerk reindeers.
Yeah,
Reindeer.
Rusty, why you muted? There we
Well,
go.
all right,
Hey.
sorry.
It's all right. Just wondering why you're muted. So tell me about this little ditty of Jack and Diane.
Ha 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 ha! Yeah,
Yeah, that's
we
right.
have-
They were actually placeholder names. You know, when you're writing a story and you don't have names, you just kind of put in a couple plugs, thinking that you're going to think of something better. And Jack and Diane are kind of, part of the American heartland, like the song goes.
I'm in the middle of Indiana.
It just stuck as we're writing it. And here we are with Jack and Diane and their kids, Tommy and Emily.
I'm in the middle of Indiana, and I go back 40 plus years with John Cougar. He dated my cousin. I'm old friends with Larry Crane, his guitarist, coming up.
I did not know that.
So,
yeah, it's a small world. There you go. But it actually fits because Jack and Diane is kind of our contemporary take on what relationships are like, what romancing is like in 2023. So it's kind of an update.
there you go.
And so Diane has a son and Jack has a daughter. Jack is a widower. Diane is divorced. And these characters are very, very well mapped out. They seem very real. Jack is a rather large black man, and Diane is a very small white woman with glasses. And it seems real because there's so many mixed race marriages and relationships these days. I found that very I'm in one myself, but I found that very refreshing. And Jack to me is really the real protagonist of this story. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Mook?
Yeah, absolutely. We were Rusty and I, when we thought of this story originally, and we can go into some of the background to it, we wanted to make it very, very contemporary. And we tried to create a balance between the fantastic world of Santa Claus, holiday tradition, the larger than life legends that we all grew up with, and the everyday reality of living in America in 2023. So, to Bill's point, we wanted that central relationship to reflect some of the tensions and conflicts that we experience in America right now. We wanted to make it really, really human. And Jack, in a sense, to Bill's point, and he nailed it right with the first read, which is terrific, really kind of embodies that spirit of being a little bit lost in America, feeling a little bit disadvantaged, being up against a lot of societal pressures. And we felt that pressure cooker could be a great protagonist for the story. And Bill also noticed this when he read the story, which is really warming for me and Rusty as storytellers. It really got through right away, which is there's strong parallels between Santa Claus as this fantastic legendary character and everyday Jack Gray. And their stories are intertwined throughout the book. And we kind of bring the fantastic world into the real world in a way that we thought could be compelling for reading.
And it's, I mean, it shines. It really does. Rusty, tell us a little bit about how you came up with the model sheets and the characters, how you wanted the characters to look, and how much much input did Mookie have on that as you guys worked together?
Well, this was really a collaboration, because even Mookie can draw, but I feel like he actually he was part of that process, because when he was typing actual words, putting into the book, and he would came across certain scenes when he thought that it would be great to have an illustration here. I would actually many times, or I would say maybe 90-80% of that time, we were in complete agreement on that particular portion needs an illustration. And I guess when we were trying to create this the characters, I mean, at first I guess I always would send it to Michael first to see, hey, what do you think about this? And most of the time he would love the characters, and occasionally he would request some add something like roughness to it. For instance, Elf was a little bit more polished and kind of cute character at first, but Michael insisted, let's make him a little bit rough and maybe a bit grumpy and just kind of mean. So I had to do some adjustments to the illustration. So it's really a collaboration, even when it comes to if you have like two realms, writing and illustration, we still would always work together. I would always bounce ideas of Michael, and he would just call me and say, hey, I have this situation, let's talk about it, how we can improve the story. So all the characters, I think, were pretty much nailed from the first attempt. And it wasn't really a character development, I would say. I think we had Jack only probably went through this transition, because we started him to be older and had the gray hair, but we decided let's make him a little bit younger, and throughout the story he might age a little bit because he went through some, in the second and third book he went through crazy adventure.
Yeah, and from my point of view, Rusty was a great collaborator. So it's not like I'm the writer and he's the illustrator. We worked together on the original concept for Super Santa, which was a screenplay we wrote together. And I basically sat there typing and working with Rusty for just the screenplay, which had 0 illustrations in it. And when we got to the point of converting it into a full-fledged novel, illustrated novel, we were equally collaborative. So, we had sections that I'd written. Rusty would create a cartoon for it, and then he'd comment on the story and the text, and then we would really work together, really scene by scene, to bring the whole story to life.
That's amazing, and it works so well. It really does.
Hey, Bill, before we take the next step, let me get a couple technical things out of the way.
Sure.
If somebody's watching this on YouTube while we're filming, can you mute the YouTube because it's echoing? It's got like a 1 second delay there. So we're catching a little echo loop. And got to say hi to the audience that's popped in with us thus far. Of course, my mom. That's my mom, Janet Martinez. James in Las Cruces, New Mexico. Splat Comics, who we're going to have on soon.
Hi, everyone.
As a collector, when everybody can get in. And Steven Spock. I do believe Spock is the cat. So welcome to those people in. And one quick question to you, Mookie Spitz. Spitz, is that your proper last name? Are you related to the IU swimmer, 7-time gold medalist?
Yeah, my birth certificate has Michael Spitz on it. So Spitz is my last name. I'm Hungarian by origin, and Mark Spitz, the gold medal swimmer, is also Hungarian. So there's a high probability we got genes that are interspliced there, but I've never bothered to give the guy a call.
All right, there you go.
Phelps has wiped him out. It's almost too late, I think.
And the Mookie nickname.
Style.
There you go.
The Mookie nickname is also from Hungarian. Mookie Blaylock, Mookie Wilson. And
well, that's what I was wondering. Mookie Blaylock or Mookie Wilson, or just the nickname, the pet name. So.
Yeah. And the Italians use Mookie too, as like some big awkward dude, like
so it fits.
Yeah.
Oh, Here's
kidding,
some rock
Mookie.
and roll trivia for you. I'm gonna pick everybody's brains here on some rock and roll trivia. What major band's first actual name was Mookie Betts, and they actually Mookie Betts. At first, their band's first name was Mookie Blaylock, but they changed it before they got big.
No
Do
kidding.
you know
I
what
never heard
grunge
this.
band that was?
I don't know. What band?
Probably the biggest grunge band of all time.
Nirvana.
Nirvana?
Not
Pearl
popular,
Jam?
but big. Pearl Jam.
Pearl Jam.
Pearl
I did
Jam
not know
used to be
that.
called
That's
Mookie
amazing.
Blaylock.
That's
Wow.
awesome.
But
That
you
is
gotta love
amazing.
old UNLV basketball for that. So
That's cool. That's cool. In the Hungarian, my father's Hungarian, and Mookie is usually the name they give those little small dogs that run around the table biting your ankles. So he
so
thought
you're
I
an
was-
ankle biter, huh?
I'm an ankle biter. I was small and irritating then, and now
There you go.
I'm big and irritating, I guess.
There
So
you
it's
And
still,
does that come through in your work?
it sure does.
All
That's
right.
the
Ask
Pulp Fiction
Rusty.
part
Rusty's
of the
over there.
Santa
Like,
story.
yeah, hell yeah. You know, so I do want to say this. Rusty was born in the Soviet Union, and he moved over here to the States when he was in his 30s. But he grew up in Ukraine, and where else, Rusty?
Well, Russia and Ukraine. My family moved to Russia and back to Ukraine, to Crimean Peninsula. So it's back and forth. But I have a house in Ukraine and Crimea. It's under occupation right now, and my family's there. That is very stubborn to live. But I haven't been there since 2013, after the Russia annexed the territories. I can't show up there.
Wow. Well, we're glad to have you in the States.
To you and your family and everyone involved, we send all our best. We send all our love.
Thank you. Rusty keeps calling them and say, "Get the hell out of there!" And they keep saying, "No, everything's fine." And then they blow it up 30 miles away.
Well, they just don't listen to me, which is fine. I'm used to it. Sometimes
it reminds me of the cover of Crisis What Crisis by Supertramp, where the guy where everything's decimated and the guy's sitting out there on a Chase lounge with sunglasses on under an umbrella. But
it's a bit of a denial thing, but it's okay. I think they should be fine.
When Rusty came to the country back in 2007, and I met him shortly after that. We were both working at an advertising agency in California where we first met. And we both can't sit still. So every 10, 15 minutes, we'd get up, go to the kitchen, get something to eat or drink, and that's how we met.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I thought, why is this guy always here when I'm getting tea, and he always gets tea at the same time? We start to joke first, like we have a biological clock or whatever rhythm, and then later we just found out that we can still, sit still, and we just always need to distract ourselves from tedious work. And
so you're both ADD then, huh?
Totally.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I am too.
I'm warriors here.
So are you guys in California?
Mark
and
may
Texas?
be the most
Where you
settled
guys
one
at?
of all of us, I should say. Mark is very organized. He's got a very logical mind.
When compared against you and Kyle, that's not a lot of competition to be normal against.
Yeah, well, I know. I know. By comparison, thank you, Mark.
So you guys in California? You in Texas?
No. Rusty is in California. Mookie is in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, I moved.
Wow.
We both lived in California. We both worked at the same place. I subsequently moved to New York, and actually, the work on Super Santa was all collaborative virtually. So we used a G-Doc, a dynamic Google Doc where I wrote all the stuff. I'd comment, hey, here would be a great place for a cartoon, Rusty. He'd make a cartoon. We'd slide it in there. And we had a lot of back and forth into document. We were on the phone, video conferencing each other. So the entire novel was basically written dynamically through digital. We're talking to each other, we're commenting.
That's cool.
Yeah, and Mookie visited once, and we went to local In-N-Out burger place that Mookie loves so much, and that was the place. And then for the first time, we laid out our kind of like a storyboard of our entire book. So
but we were already knee deep. So we had really one physical touch point to storyboard it all out, make sure nothing was missing. We thought of tweaking the ending a little bit, and then we were really off to the races.
And I do want to throw this in. Mookie used to work. Mookie, didn't you used to work for Lego?
No, I just put that on my Facebook page because I bought so much of the shit that I might as well be the purchasing officer.
I always thought you worked there. That is so hilarious.
Yeah.
Kids, grandkids, or yourself?
Oh, I used it as an excuse. I have 2 boys, and I used their love of Lego as an excuse to buy more than I could or should for me.
I got a grandson where I'm just shoveling hundreds of dollars into Lego sets.
Yeah.
They have some really wonderful stuff coming out now too. Lego does. It's I mean, and of course, as comic fans like we all are, they tend to go Marvel and DC quite a bit. So I enjoy that comic book component that they've added in the last few years with their licensed sets.
Yeah.
Totally.
I think Rusty and I will consider it our biggest win if Lego franchises Super Santa characters. Then we'd be like, wow, we've arrived.
And then you talked to Bill, you talked about Big Little books, but since you're sitting here on a panel full of comic book historians that stretch the entirety of the comic book format history, and you referenced that it's kind of laid out like the Big Little books, what it actually sounds more laid out like are the old Punch magazines and things like that, which were the beginnings of comics. And cartoons,
and that's very true. Like the Penny Dreadfuls, that kind of thing. Yeah, it's very similar to that.
It goes back to the history. So like Mark's got the first reference to cartoons from 1841. I've got the first brownies from 1882. So we actually have reference material that goes back to the beginnings. It sounds like what you're doing, 170 years later?
Yeah, no, I think that's an appropriate reference. I think that works. Don't you, Mook?
Oh, absolutely. It even reminded me a bit while we're working on it on the Tenniel collaboration with Carol for Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
Which is very Punch-like also. You've got text, and embedded is an illustration. And every few pages, you get that embedded image. And we pulled that through what amounts to over 1,000 pages of content. The first 430 or so is in book 1 that we published this week.
I also compared it yesterday when we were talking to kind of hash out what we talk about today. I brought up the fact that it reminds me quite a bit of E.B. White's work, Stuart Little and Charlotte's Web, of course, and his work with Gareth Williams. It seems very, very similar to that, very similar to A.A. Milne as well. I had to bring a Brit in there for Mark's sake, but it's very similar to that to me, and I think you guys are going to love it. I'm sure the guys will be happy to send you a PDF copy to read. It's just I couldn't put it down.
I found it on UK Amazon and I've just ordered it. So there we go. I might be your first UK.
Terrific.
Thank you, Mark, for your support.
So you've sold to England now. That's quite a coup. You know,
we've gone global. Thanks to Mark.
Yeah, it's going to be here by Friday. It says 434 pages.
Yeah.
But you know what? I read it in a little over 2 hours. It was a very easy read. What makes it so easy to read is Mookie has this wonderful ability to put you in the middle of a conversation, an argument, whatever it might be. And the way he writes, it's very much like a play or like a script. And it's very easy to read, but it's almost like you're watching it on television as you read it. And I think that's a wonderful quality for a writer, especially these days. A lot of his conversational writing is very similar to me to like Elmore Leonard or something in a Tarantino movie. It's very pithy, very quick, very real, very real, and that's what I really enjoyed about it.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Bill, and I think that's spot on. Our intent was really clippy, punchy dialogue that's very representative of real people going at it. And at the same time, I tried to complement it with a little bit of crunchy, emotional kind of introspection, like the relationship between Jack and Diane. I tried to ground the book in a lot of emotion, their conflicts, some of their story, and at the same time, paint the whole picture very cinematographically. So that, just like you say, Bill, it's very action oriented. Things are moving along pretty quick.
Right. And of course, you have the somewhat common trope in Christmas stories of the kid that spots Santa
right
when he's there delivering the gifts, and that kicks everything off. And I think that you guys use the trope in a whole different way, in the sense that the kids are kind of critical of Santa, and it kind of hurts his feelings a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, that was like the 1-2 punch. So it's a trope that kids can see Santa Claus, and usually it's a surprise, and then, oh boy, I saw Santa Claus. This kid is a spoiled brat, conspiracy theorist, video game addicted punk. And he sees Santa Claus and he's like, "Where's my video game, buddy?" And then when they go at it, he concludes, "Come on, you're a boomer. You're uncool. I love my superheroes. Who are you? You're Santa Claus. You're all washed up."
And that makes
force behind
that drives Santa to become Super Santa.
Right.
And he gets a total makeover during the novel. It's I tell you what, it threw me at first at how adult it was, in the sense that you don't really mince words. You go for it, but it also, it's almost like a Hallmark Channel special on acid, and it works for. It's so refreshing. I really do hope a lot of people read it, because I hope it becomes like a Netflix series, because I think it would be wonderful in live action, and you could get someone like who's the guy for Anthony Edwards or someone like that to play the main character. He would be great. I mean, he would be fantastic. Or Hannibal Burrows, or one of those mainstream black actors these days would be wonderful in that role. And it's funny, I don't get giddy over things very often, but it really made me happy to read this. So I hope our listeners and watchers out there will give it a chance, because it's really fantastic.
It's a Christmas story, but they turn the gun on Santa.
What the heck?
It's New York.
That's New York?
Yeah, he's Midtown, aren't you?
Yeah, actually, I'm Upper West Side, and I got the emergency room down the block. I got the sushi restaurant playing disco until 10 p.m. I got mice. I got bugs. I got homeless people.
There you go.
You got it all.
But yeah. So I'm not a big PDF guy, and when things are missing from my library, I have to say it. So we have to facilitate. I need to figure out a way to get a copy of this, but signed by both creators, even though it's on both.
No,
copies.
you got it. You got it.
You need to make those available, signed by both creators.
Yeah.
And I need to remind our previous watchers of earlier shows. Here we are pulling legendary comic book creators on. I just want to make sure you're not seeing double. And no, we do not have Rafi Nieves and JMD Mateus on again. These are two new guys.
Well, they do look like them.
notices.
They do look like. That's weird.
There's
weird.
a little
You look like
favoritism
former
towards
guests of
Rafi with
ours.
Rusty, and a little favoritism towards JM there with Mook.
That's kind of funny. Yeah. Well, I always think of Mookie as a friendly Lex Luthor. So,
Yeah. We're Dr. Evil here.
Yeah.
Spot on.
And Mark for some reason has always reminded me of Peter Ustinov. I don't know why.
Yeah, very much so.
Face to face, but I'm on a Ustinov kick these days. He did a movie that the last movie that was allowed to be shot at the Alamo was in 1968, and it's called Viva Max. And he plays a Mexican general who wants to go reclaim the Alamo for Mexico. And oh my gosh, it's such a great movie. If anyone hasn't seen it, please go watch. It's great. Have you ever seen it, Mark?
No, what's it called?
Viva Max.
Viva Max, did you say?
Yeah.
I love Peter Ustinov.
It's a comedy masterpiece.
Great storyteller.
But I think they created so much havoc at the Alamo, and they shut it down for a few weeks to shoot it, and everybody was outraged, and so they decided after that no one else could shoot at the Alamo. So, but it very, very, very interesting. I don't know how we got off on a Peter Ustinov kick, but
I figured after Davy Crockett and Sam Bowie got hit, they wouldn't let anybody shoot at the Alamo.
Mark can also audition as Santa Claus, I think, for the Super Santa.
Yeah, well, I have had
it.
Now I do want to say this because I went with Jim Chadwick, my friend who's an editor for DC. I went with him a couple weeks ago to the Alamo to spread his brother's ashes at this oak tree that was there. I mean, it's actually completely okay. They bring you a liaison from the Parks Department to go with you to do this. It was really pretty wonderful, actually. It was something we didn't expect it to be so affecting, but it was really amazing. But the Alamo, I mean, it's undergoing a major restoration right now, and I talked about this briefly with Mark on a previous podcast, but the guy who had the largest Alamo collection in the world is Phil Collins. And Phil Collins donated it all to the Alamo. And so it's going to be part of this new restoration. But the funny thing is, as a result, everything at the Alamo now is narrated by Phil Collins. So you might expect the Texan to do it. And no, it's like, I don't know.
This guy with this almost a deep English accent, right?
Yeah, it's just so great. It's
That's
so
cool.
great.
That's cool.
And one more thing I'll add about the Alamo, and we'll move on. But across the street from the Alamo is the cathedral, and for the town. And in the lobby, as you walk in, is the tomb that holds Davy Crockett, Jim Bowie, and William Travis's remains. And it's very strange. People don't realize that, but their remains are basically owned by the Catholic Church, and they're there as you walk in to the left. And it's staggering. It's staggering to know that, how many people died at the Alamo. It's just an amazing story. But okay, moving back to Super Santa. I do want to say this. Can you tell us a little bit about how you handled your superhero characters in it?
Yeah. So when we had the premise that this kid sees Santa Claus is deemed uncool. Santa falls into a depression and an identity crisis, and then he gets talked into by his elves to join up. We can put a cape on you. We can give you a new uniform. You're a superhero anyway. You deliver 1 million presents an hour. You're, in a sense, the world's first superhero, but they don't get it. You need a marketing overhaul. You need a once over. And then
I love that, by the way. It works so well with the story, and this is what I love. It's for something that's based in the fantastical. It's very real, and I love that, and I love the rawness you've put to Santa and his situation. I really do.
Yeah, thanks. And you're very perceptive about how we put it all together. And then when we introduced Santa Claus as a superhero, then Rusty and I came to the realization that we can introduce real superheroes. And then they have their own motivation for partnering up with Santa Claus. And then that introduced a whole new plot element. Real superheroes in a sense, partnering up and taking advantage of Santa Claus's need to be supered up. And then that crosses over, not, spoiler alert, into the super villains of the story, where you have, these big franchise entities like the studios, the cinematic universes, the theme parks, right? Which to a certain extent are driven by fantasy, by fantastic characters, by superheroes. And in a sense, they steal Christmas. They take over Super Santa's role as basically the bastion and deliverer of Christmas. And then the plot really stays off.
Okay. So did you say you'd actually finished all 3 books? Are they all complete?
Yeah. We need to fine tune book 3, maybe the last couple chapters, but book 2 is pretty much ready to go. We're going to issue that in a month. And then book 3,
I didn't realize you're moving that quickly. That's wonderful.
Yeah. And it's partly because we kept writing this thing and Rusty kept drawing, and the thing exploded to the point where we're not going to release a 1,000-page book. Who's gonna be able to process that?
Over 1,000, actually.
With 450 illustrations. So we broke it up into 3. The rise of Super Santa, Merry Super Christmas, because Super Santa has to have Super Christmas where the presents are delivered every day of the year. He can't just be a one-night-a-year guy. The superheroes are tweeting all the time. Their movies are always being played. Super Santa's got to be there all the time, 24/7, 365 on social media. So welcome to Super Christmas. And then lastly, we introduced a whole new element, which really got the whole conversation started. The idea that there are international Santa Clauses. Every country has their own Santa Claus. You've got a French Santa Claus, a Mexican Santa Claus, a Russian Santa Claus. And we introduce them as characters too, and they save the day. American Santa Claus is souped up and he messed up Christmas. And little Emily, the one girl with integrity, the daughter of Jack, is like, I gotta fix Santa Claus. I gotta fix Christmas. Christmas has been wrecked by all this madness. And then reaches out to Team Santa, the superheroes from across the world, and they become characters and they come in to save the day.
Will that be in the second book or the third?
That's the third book. Team Santa to the rescue, and Rusty's like, "Can you shut up and not give away the whole story?"
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's kicking you under the table 3,000 miles away.
Shut up already! It's like spoilers, but I'm like.
Well, I will tell you this, and I hope the guys agree with me on this, but we'd love to have you back when the second book comes out and when the third book comes out, because this is a fascinating conversation, and I think you have something extremely different and cool, and I hope upon hope that somebody reads it that has some kind of pull in the industry, because it really needs to become a series of some sort.
Well, we appreciate that. We want to bring joy. We want everybody to have as good a time reading it and looking at the illustrations as Rusty and I had writing it.
Right.
And just, all of us have collaborated with people over the years. And, these partnerships come and go. Some of them are good, some of them less so. But not to speak for Rusty, it's been a real joy working with him. And I think it shows in the content that we had this, we never disagreed about the vision, about where this thing had to go. And when we did disagree about individual plot twists or ideas, that's when the real creativity happened. Because he had an idea, I might have disagreed. And when we went at it in terms of trying to figure out like a block in the story, something wasn't really working, then it became better than the sum of its parts. It's like the output of Super Santa is both of us working together, having the same vision, but often disagreeing. And as we ground it out, something came out neither one of us ever anticipated. And that's, I think, the magic of the collaboration right there.
Cool.
And that's another reason why we so much appreciate that you invited us to your podcast, because as someone who just released this book for the first time, to see someone who shows some support and love for our book, for our story, that means a lot to us. That inspires us to work even harder. And it's so easy to criticize, but when people actually praise your work, that gives you energy and motivation to go on and do it even better.
Yeah,
So,
and when you're doing some weird shit, like there's some weird shit in this book, and we're kind of out there. And then Rusty and I are wondering, like, are we crazy? You see it and I see it, but can we go there? Can we do this? And then to have other people come in and say, yeah, actually your risk taking and experimentation seemed to work, buddy. Keep going, and that's deeply inspirational.
Well, I have to tell you, I was so grateful that it was so good, because when a friend asks you to read their book or something, I have read a few duds in my day, right. and I wasn't I knew you guys had something special here. I didn't know exactly what till I read it, but I knew there was something going on here that was going to be incredible to talk about like today, and I'm grateful that it was, because I didn't have to tell you, yeah, it was really good. It's not like that. It really is good.
Good job, guys. Keep the day job.
Yeah. Go back to Legos.
Yeah. My non-existent Lego job. Keep buying more of that shit. Really go broke.
So, Mark, you had a question for him?
Yes, guys. If I've got a 6-year-old nephew and an 18-year-old nephew, which one of them should I give this book to for Christmas?
The 18-year-old.
Probably neither. We have a disclaimer on the cover where we
is very adult. I do have to say
the rated R from movies.
Okay.
And there's a little phrase in it too, that if you're under 17, don't tell your parents. So
I had a 16-year-old young lady read our book before we even finished it, and she liked it, and it was very appropriate, and her parents looked at it and they said it's fine.
So right now we live in a very sensitized environment, as we all know. And we had another friend who read parts of it, and we outlined some of the plot, and he was like, you guys are getting canceled. So there's ways that if you take some of the story out of context, it could be construed in ways that might be seen as inappropriate or unacceptable. But the sentiment behind the whole book is really about humanism, creating an egalitarian, wonderful society, and basically granting a little girl's Christmas wish for the couple that's supporting her to get married and to have a family. So the sentiment behind Super Santa can't be more milquetoast, Hallmark greeting card, middle America. But to get there, there's a lot of crazy shit that goes on. And that's the Pulp Fiction part of the Santa Claus Comes to Town that Bill mentioned. And we have a lot of fun with it. We poke and prod the standards of our society. We make observations about things that many people might not agree with, but it's all done with love, and it's all done with the intent of triggering conversations and opening up dialogue in our hugely polarized society. And that's ultimately the perspective that we have, which is, opening things up instead of closing.
And you guys have self-published this, is that right?
Yes, it's on Amazon. The wonderful part of the digital revolution is, you could just cut out the middlemen. Back in the days, and I'm sure you guys have lived through it too, that your great work was subject to an agent, subject to the whimsy of a publisher. And Rusty and I basically just uploaded that PDF, and we've got our book number, and we've got our barcode, and now we're talking to you amazing people with something that Rusty and I just picked up on our own.
So what's your Library of Congress number?
It's somewhere in there. Hopefully it's not 911.
Oh my God.
Cool.
Especially since you're from New York. Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to go there. You said it's rated R. He's compared you to Elmore Leonard. I am definitely going to go there with this. We all know I'm going to go Tacky and Gauche. Since this kid's a young punk, does someone within the story tell the classic dirty Santa Claus story about, or joke about why he doesn't have any kids?
Yes.
All right. I kind of figured that would fill a page right there.
Yeah, and actually, there's one character named Charlie, and he is the chief toy designer of the North Pole, and he's quite a personality. He's competing with the main elf, his chief operations guy, to kind of seize control of the North Pole. And his shtick is he tells Christmas and Santa Claus jokes. So in the first book, you have several times where Charlie is telling dirty Christmas jokes.
Right.
He tells that one in book 2. So you beat us to the punch.
Spoiler alert. Mark, you know that one, right?
Charlie?
You just cut out, Mark. We didn't hear that.
And I'm looking forward to reading it in book 2.
Yeah.
He doesn't want you to spoil it for him.
No spoilers.
Yeah. So and there's more than just.
There's a reason Santa doesn't have children.
Jokes in it.
Oh, that's great. That is great.
Yeah.
That is great. Is that Nano Girl?
That's Nano Gal.
Nano Gal.
That's a scene where the superheroes are luring Santa Claus onto their team. So they see that Santa's gone all super. He's kind of a mess. And the superheroes take advantage of Santa Claus's dire situation to make their move. And usually there's no better way to do that than through the allure of somebody attractive. And
now, the agent and manager is jumping right out of me. As soon as he showed that, the original is a thing of beauty. I'm telling you, take that piece of artwork, copy it, both of you sign it, slip it in as a book plate, add $5 to the cost or whatever. Make some money off of that. That's brilliant. I would love to have a signed copy of that.
Great. We actually have a website where we got T-shirts, and we've got some of Rusty's art already up there, and he could probably do some signs. So we've got T-shirts, Rusty. You got your T-shirt. We've got books and mugs and cups that are already available, and we're trying to plug that too. Kind of, franchise Super Santa style, and that's
make
wonderful...
that cheesecake a book plate or something to sign it. Because
I've noticed. I'm looking at those, and I've noticed you two are not doing the modeling.
Yeah. Rusty, show a couple more of your art. Like
please show.
Please. It's really nice stuff.
Hey, Gray, is there a chance if you're in there, can you enlarge Rusty for a little bit there?
Yeah, so let's check that out. And this one,
we met.
Yeah,
isn't that great line work? It's just it's just really classic. I love it.
Yeah, And here Rusty nailed really the motif. There's the evil robot who we call him Media Frenzy, who's a symbol of misinformation and fake news and bullshit.
I love that.
We need
Yeah.
to get Don Simpson
Yeah.
on here and bring
Yeah.
Hillary Barta back. Hillary
Yeah.
loved these things.
And then there's Elf hauling ass through the North Pole, getting shit done. And you see their consistent style that we call the Super Santa style that we evolved over time working together. So I was like telling Rusty, yeah, this is whimsical. Maybe make it a little bit more playful at the same time. There's
So
Super Santa
those are the two
style.
kids that are two of the main characters, and that's Santa taking a selfie with them after they've kind of helped him figure out who he is.
Right.
That had some Jack Davis feel to it.
I really love Rusty's style. I'm kind of mesmerized by it, I have to say. Rusty, what do you use? Do you use pens or do you use brush?
Well, I mean, this is all digital art, so I have Cintiq, screen, and it's all digital. But
oh, really? It doesn't look like it at all. That's amazing.
That did not
yeah,
at all
but
look
they
like
mastered
digital
this.
art.
I mean, I was looking for a texture that would kind of look like my usual style, which I use just the feathers and brushes, just a classic sort of comic book style illustrations.
And zero AI, folks. Right now we're in the revolution, and I know you guys feel it, where you type in a description and a machine will generate a graphic for you. And Super Santa, the entire series, there's not a single image in it that was auto-generated. Everything is by Rusty's hand. And I typed every character into that keyboard. No Chat GPT, no stuff. This is old school.
As far as we know. No, I'm kidding.
I'm still
Mookie
saying
may
none
be
of that looked
completely AI. We don't know.
That does not look digital at all.
It doesn't. It doesn't. And
At all.
It's
Well, it's still
amazing.
hand-drawn thing. So,
At all.
I'm just
Yeah.
using the pen. It's just digital, but my hand and everything is just and you pick specific texture for your brush that looks a little bit more. It's actually this brush type called Classic Cartoonist. So I literally grab it, and it has a little bit imperfections already, installed in it, and it gets closer to my, to the style that I would actually achieve on paper with pens or ink.
Do you have any actual pen and ink drawings nearby you that you've done?
Let me see.
Of anything. I mean, obviously,
yeah,
that's
he's
Super
good. He
Santa.
did a pen and ink drawing of my ex-wife and her sister,
Well, this
and
is
it was so accurate it led to my divorce.
Well,
this
there
is-
you go.
Oh,
This
that's
is,
scary. That's
well,
scary.
this is not original, but it's printed. But that was done in ink. This one. This is just the cover of our local magazine here.
Wow. That's great.
Spectacular.
That is great.
This
I
is
love that
classic ink.
evil look on the right there. That's great.
Thank you. So that was.
Yeah, Rusty, do you have the picture of my ex-wife handy? It might scare you.
Well, you don't blame me, but I don't.
Actually, I don't either. Thank goodness.
Well, yeah, that's what I thought.
I hope she's still in Korea, by the way.
yeah.
Okay, good.
So what you're saying is Rusty draws a good succubus.
Totally. Yeah. Literally and figuratively. He's a pro.
Yeah, that is so funny.
Yeah.
But Rusty kind of got a real raw deal there. That's all I'll say. I mean, Mookie, not Rusty. I'm sorry, Rusty. I meant Mookie.
Like his friend, I got some of it.
It's all fair in love and war, as they say. But
Amen.
I'll tell you what, we got such a connection over there in the UK. These guys hype it up enough, you'll start selling some of those over there.
Yeah.
I think so. So let me ask you this: does Father Christmas show up from the UK in the Santa League? Is he the British
Yeah,
Santa?
there's Father Christmas in the league. We've got the Finnish Yulbluki. I don't even know if I pronounced it correctly. Who's like the Yuluki, who's the great granddaddy of the Santa Clauses. We've got Rasta Santa. He's the Jamaican Santa Claus, and he shows up on gigantic flying iguanas. And we got some crazy shit in book 3.
I love that.
Well, now you got your Buki. Do you have Kabuki from Japan?
Yes, we've got Ninja Santa. He shows up.
Ninja Santa. I love
Ninja
that.
Santa, and he's got stainless steel Christmas stars.
Are you ready for this?
Oh my gosh. I want a Rasta Santa shirt. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Did you see that, Mark? The Rasta Santa
Yes, I'm
shirt?
sorry, I missed it. My son just came in. I haven't seen him for 10 days, so I just thought I'd have a chat.
Go Rasta Santa again, Rusty. This is great.
Oh yeah, I saw that on the link you sent. Yeah, I love the Rasta.
Yeah. We got Rusty.
That's great.
Yeah, and then we've got Black Santa too, which is a bit of a hint as to where the story could be going. So we've got all sorts of different kinds of Santas that match.
Spoiler alert, it's Jack. But sorry. I forget. I'm one of the few people.
That's right. We all know the Titanic sang.
I will shut the you know what up.
I had to go in my front room and pull this off my wife's bookshelf.
Oh, there you go. Right on. Right.
Is that like a yard gnome?
Yeah, that's a garden gnome, but still pretty Rasta.
It kind of looks like a black version of Harry Gnome.
Rasta gnome elf.
Rasta Santa garden gnome.
Awesome. So, make swag, make toys. We just wanted to celebrate the sense of, the global spirit of Christmas.
I love that. And here's the funny thing, guys. One of them is Jewish and one of them is Muslim, and they come up with this great story about Santa Claus. Yeah. So I mean, I love that so much.
Yeah. Well, Irving Berlin, who wrote White Christmas, he was a Jewish guy, just playing the black keys of the piano, I think. So you need a Jew and a Muslim to irritate a bunch of Catholics about Santa.
Well, you haven't irritated me.
I know you like it. We got the huge fan, so it's good. We love that you love it, and we really appreciate you guys rallying around it. And we're very eager to get feedback. And maybe take some of it in to book 2 and 3.
Yeah, well, I've ordered a copy on Amazon, so
that's great. I really want your feedback.
I've got now I'm going to do more than that. I've got a YouTube channel. I've got probably a couple of thousand followers, so I'll do a review for you on my YouTube channel.
Yeah, and if you
I do think you're going to enjoy it, Mark.
Yeah, we very much appreciate it. As I said before, this is very touching that people actually, let alone Bill, just found some time to read our book, and the fact that he liked it and he was very honest about it and actually touched every point that we wanted to make in this book. When we first time talked, Bill, and you just told us what you think about the book, I was speechless. I couldn't even say anything because it was an unbelievable experience. You were the very first reader of our book. And
wow!
No one read it before, guys. And
I'm touched, but I'm touched also.
Yeah, and when you're putting together something new, you're always wondering if you're crazy or not. You know what I mean? You see it in your head, and then you get it out, and you're trying to get your vision to match your output, and that's hard work getting them together. And then they finally come together, and you're like, does this suck or is it any good? And then if you get validation, that's pretty nice.
Well, and you do something great in that you hook the reader almost from the first page, and that propelled me to want to know more and more and more and finish it quickly. And I haven't read. I don't know if I've read a novel or a book in probably 4 or 5 years, and because I prefer comics and I like pictures with my stories. But this checked off all the boxes for me as far as a good, solid novel that was fun. It was very the thing I hate is when you know where something's going.
Right.
I hate that, and I had no clue at any given time where your story was going.
Great.
And that makes it fun, and that makes you want to read more and more and more. And I think that's going to be a big hook for you guys.
Awesome.
I really do.
Awesome.
Thank you, Bill.
Book
Thanks.
2 has all sorts of new surprises in store for where.
Can you guys show us any pictures without context, of course, from the second book?
Yeah, we've got them all there. We've got 400 illustrations in total already done.
Wow.
We've got
it's so good, folks. It really is.
Thank you.
Oh, so we pair Elf up with the little girl. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That's a spoiler alert too.
Yeah, and spoiler alert, they crash land in Mexico after escaping, and they team up with Papa Noel, the Mexican Santa Claus.
I love that. I love that.
It gets global.
That.
It's international.
It goes global, folks. Yeah.
So is Papa Noel? Does he look like a bandito or anything? Or
yeah,
what does he look like?
We've got the illustration. He's got a big sombrero and a huge mustache.
I only have a digital.
Yeah, and a big Christmas poncho. And
I love that.
instead of reindeer, he's got burros, magical flying asses.
Yeah, well. As someone who's had a jackass named after me, I completely support the burros being the
right. And the elves
transportation.
The elves play in a mariachi band, and they play Christmas songs, of course.
I love that. I love that. San Antonio is kind of the land of mariachis. They have mariachi schools here. They have, in fact, I'm trying to remember the mariachis de Campanas. I can't remember their name now, but they played at our wedding years ago, and then the next year they won a Grammy for putting out an album with Willie Nelson. So mariachis are big here, and it's pretty awesome. In fact, they have a lot of high schools here have 2 bands. They have the school band, and then they have a school mariachi band. So it's very, very entrenched in Southwest society, I must say.
You know, if this podcast started a band, it'd be called Magical Flying Asses.
We're making progress. We got flying asses.
Yeah. Mark and I really appreciate that, Kyle. Thanks a lot.
There you go.
Hey, Mark, we have to have our typical cheers, my man.
Sorry.
Today.
Sorry, guys. This is the bit where
do you get your drink, Mark? Mark, where's your drink? Okay, cheers, buddy.
Cheers.
Salud.
That's toast. Great meeting you guys and chatting about this stuff. Here's to
I got more questions.
We got as many answers as you can throw at us. They might not be coherent, but we'll do
if you could have any crossover with any major character in Super Santa, would it be the obvious Superman, or where would you go with it? Are you Marvel, DC, independent? Who would be a dream crossover for Super Santa?
That's a great question. Like for the universes to intertwine. You want to take a shot at that, Rusty?
Well, I'm thinking this is, I didn't expect that at all. That's
that's what we're all about here, folks.
I would, because we're so much, designed to sort of, incorporate every character into our story. I think it must be a character that is somehow basically represents one of the fraction of this the character world. You know, all the characters that we have. Let me think a little bit about.
Yeah, you know what could really work. What we tried to do was Santa Claus is a fantastic, legendary figure, but we also made him real. He's a flesh and blood person. And our superheroes, we created what we call the Vortex superhero franchise. And we even gave the name Vortex Press or Vortex Publishing to the book, which is on the cover. It's a fictional studio. And Vortex is competing with Marvel and DC. And the unique feature of the Vortex superheroes is that they're actual real people. It's not like an actor is playing a superhero. It's not like Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man in the Iron Man movie. It's Mr. Astonishing is Mr. Astonishing in real life, and he has real superpowers. So we tried to draw a match, and we tried to create a unique franchise that didn't have crossover, one that we could kind of stake. So to answer your great question, a great superhero crossover would be a superhero that's kind of like that doesn't really even have an alias. Maybe even in the spirit of some of the Watchmen characters. And there's a few superheroes where what you see is kind of what you get, right? There isn't like a Bruce Wayne and a Batman. They just.
What about the fake?
Or since we're rethinking some of the traditional characters, I would say, you know, someone like Superman actually would be perfect for this because he's so well known, so well respected and celebrated that finding some interesting weaknesses in his story or personal life was, and juxtapose it to you know, the modern reality that would bring to new interesting storylines. For instance, we don't know about his taxes, for instance, and stuff like that. That would make it interesting, sort of twist.
Or even in that line, like Doc Manhattan from the Watchmen, because he's really Doc Manhattan. He got all the radiation. He mutated, and Doc Manhattan is like our Mr. Astonishing.
Oh, that's interesting.
All right, got another twist for you here.
Right.
Since I'd imagine you have the disclaimer at the beginning and you have, it's a work of fiction, you have no likeness rights issues, but we all know all fiction is steeped in reality.
Right.
Without telling tales out of school, are there any particular characters based on someone close to you? Were the kids, your kids or nieces or nephews? See, I got him. I got Rusty. We know somebody's a basis for somebody with Rusty.
Well, we have a friend, Michael and I, we have a friend, good friend. I don't want to say his name, but he was the inspiration behind Jack.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Yeah.
Now, but you give him a nod, just give him a nod or a thank you in the liner notes or whatever.
He is very much aware of this, and he actually looking forward to the book 3 because his character basically will shine there.
Meanwhile, in New York City, I'm kidding.
I'll put myself on mute, right?
As they bust into Mookie's house.
Yeah, I get arrested. Yeah.
I'm just going to keep hitting you with questions. You said open them up. I'm going to keep hitting you with them.
Keep hitting it.
You obviously love writers. You obviously love comics. You obviously love artists. Give us a list of favorites in those genres.
Sure. You want to go first, Rusty, with your influence?
Well, I mean, I probably will be, I mean, since I grew up in a different country where comic books were pretty much forbidden, and I remember Soviet government was very, very specific about it. They feared it so much. There was a fear for comic books, and I guess because the whole standard Soviet propaganda was based on just showing kids, you know, good morals and teaching them something, and not showing any violence, nothing strange or weird. And comic books all about this, you know, creative freedom. And but one of my friends, my good friend's father served in Libya. If you remember, there was a conflict between United States and Libya at that time. So because he was in Northern Africa, so there was huge influence of French and Francophone comics there. So he brought some of the samples to his son. And when I was in 4th or maybe even 3rd grade, for the first time I saw French comics or French comic magazines, and that just blew my mind because first of all, I said, why in the hell we don't have this bright colors in our pictures like kids' book? Everything was kind of grayish and brownish in Soviet Union because the technology wasn't there, and nobody wanted to spend too much money on printing some colorful imagery and stuff. So my first and major inspiration was Francophone comic artists, and I can show you some of the books that I have in my collection that obviously was sort of influential.
That would be awesome.
So
That
first of
would
all,
be
was
awesome.
this old Gadget magazine. This is like from the 80s. I found some old t-shirt that, I think there was a golden age of this magazine. So it's let me just find.
The story to that book alone makes it priceless. That's absolutely incredible.
So this
The way
is
that
old
traveled.
magazine, and if you look at some of the images here, let me find.
This is great. I'm so glad you had this close by, Rusty. This is very interesting.
Well, I prepared. So if you see some of the comic strips here, and their artists are beautiful.
Oh,
You
God,
might see
stop.
some of the similarities too.
Take that roll out of that book.
Do you like it?
And don't roll it like that. Oh my God. That makes old comic book dudes nuts. I know that thing's loved greatly, but man, that's a cringe factor on me.
So there's a
Oh my God.
So that's something that I really, really liked. So that's just old French
Bubble.
stuff.
Yeah.
That was inspires me.
Yeah.
Of course,
It's just gorgeous.
Asterix, of course.
Oh,
And,
of course.
Of course.
This is
Asterisk.
Swiss. This is Swiss Titeuf. It's about this bad boy, kind of like a schoolboy who just really kind of crazy, and he's like and I like the short strips. Like almost every page is a separate story.
Oh,
So
that's
that
great.
was probably my inspiration.
Your style.
Comic.
Mark, would you consider that close to Dennis the Menace, the UK version? Like the rough kid?
I can hear you.
We
Mark.
can't hear you, Mark.
Can you hear me
Yeah, I
now?
hear you.
No? Okay. I've obviously done something.
Now we can.
Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, the French style is very unique. And I can see art. I can definitely see reflections of that in your art. It's very unique. It's the Asterix and the Pepe and all that sort of French stuff, which I really quite like. And it's very different to the English comic art.
The Gustavi kind of stuff. Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
But a year ago, I went to London and I went to cartoon museum there, and it was absolutely mind blowing. The quality of a British cartoonist, it's just unbelievable. I have tons of pictures there, and it's just mind blowing. And I love this one panel cartoons. And I was actually published when I was 16 in national magazine in Soviet Union, Crocodile. The Crocodile, it's called. It was basically like a satirical thing. But that was a big, huge event in my life, and it's kind of shaped out because of the feeling that being published by this big, publication.
How many
That's
copies
amazing.
of that Crocodile do you still have? Seriously.
I can't tell you for sure.
You got numerous ones of the original one that you did in the first one?
I think I have it somewhere, but I can't really. I have
Kyle,
I'm telling you, when you become rich and famous.
I mean, if you give me some time, I'll find it. But I want to.
I'd be in bids for a signed copy of that. Your first professional work. That would be utterly brilliant. So you're here to go with it. Mark will know this one. What was the first Western comic introduced to the Soviet Union?
The first. Well, I remember the comics. Let me think.
Early 1992. Mark has a copy now, I know.
Well, the thing is, the comic books weren't that popular because of for the same reason, because people weren't really aware of them. And when they actually became a sort of, they started publish them in Soviet Union, it was basically, it's very esoteric, sort of like just a very small group of people that would appreciate it.
Yeah, like for Bubble. But the one that the West kind of hit you with in '92, they limited it to 10,000 copies, and it was polybagged. What was it, Mark?
Is it that goofy one? The
Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, Mickey Mouse one. Yeah.
Mickey Mouse made it across the Iron Curtain. All right.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's
amazing. They hit it with Mickey Mouse.
But Disney
That was
specifically
unbelievable.
they showed TV series. They introduced like Happy Meals at the first McDonald's in Moscow. So there was a very, very specific, and Disney was popular.
Now,
But again, like
writers,
comic book and superheroes weren't that much popular,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Writers, I mean, considering you come from the land of the greatest writers that ever walked the earth, were you ever influenced by any of them?
Well, of course. I mean, I love many of the Russian classic literature. I
He
love
kept
Dostoevsky.
comparing me to Tolstoy, and I just didn't measure up. He's like, Mookie, this shit's pretty good, but compared to Chekhov.
No.
I mean, come on, you're saying 300-400 page books, so you get 1,200 page novella going.
Yeah, I would
Crime
couple
and
this
Shit
is
by Mookie Tolstoy.
yeah. When we got to over 1,000 pages, I told him like, this is War and Peace, man. We got to do something about it.
It's Santa and reindeer shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mentioned reindeer shit yesterday, and they're writing it into the book now. So
Bill, you got
feel
an
pretty
influence. We just have
honored about that.
reindeer pee so far. The reindeers are pissing on everybody, but they didn't step in any reindeer poo. But that was a great idea. We got to go there.
yeah, Bill. Thank you.
I'm glad I could add that shit to the book.
Now, before we get to Mookie's favorites, and I'm going to bring this down a notch, but I'm going to pick it up a lot. We talk funnies, we talk comics, we talk things like that, but you're from the Ukraine. You talked about family being in the Ukraine.
Right.
Is there anything you want to say to the world? I want to give you a forum to just shake your fist at the world. What are these dumbasses doing? These poor people are stuck in the middle, and you've got these superpowers pulling all this bullshit.
Yeah, well, I understand that this is classic neo-colonial war. Russia, like some of the people in the West think that Russia is just a country and has like the NATO is expanding and everything. But Russia is a classic empire that colonized many people, many nations, and Ukraine is one of them. And if you remember the first war, and the reason why I left Russia was Russia starting war in the Chechen Republic. So, but because it was technically a Russian colony, no one cared. And I remember I went to protests, and maybe maximum 2,000 people would gather. So that was very disappointed in my compatriots, and I just left because. So basically, I hated Putin before it was cool, and then when I moved here, it was obviously was trying to support Ukraine because there was again my childhood. Even though I lived in Russia for a while, then back to Ukraine. And the only place I own is in Ukraine. But it's tough. I think America does a good job overall, but it's a very, very sensitive thing because I think deep inside the West doesn't want another collapse of another empire on their hands, and they trying to be very gentle with it. And but I think nothing bad really happened when the Soviet Union collapsed, so I think they should go for it.
Why won't your dad leave though, Rusty? Like your dad is sitting there in northwestern Crimea. They live in a house,
Right.
and there's everything is creeping up on him. I think that's maybe an answer to the question, which is why do they?
It's why I wouldn't leave my house right here. If somebody was knocking on my door, I'd take out a stick and I'd send them back.
Right.
Yeah,
You got an old fella there.
He's got the stick ready.
He
He thinks this is going to happen.
Get the hell out.
So.
I think it's a denial.
No.
I think my parents are actually grew up in the Soviet Union. They have this sentiment that they still think that there's some good, maybe Russia has some good intention or something. I don't know. I wouldn't say they're pro-Russian, but they don't understand fully what's going on, and they're in denial. I think it's a psychological rather problem, and and they usually never listen to me. So I don't
people
have.
don't want to leave. Look at the floods.
Well,
the floods that just happened, hurricane in Florida. People just sat there.
if I could physically go over there, I would stand at their front door with this and dare any Russian to take their house. I literally would. If I could physically do it, I'd sit there and go, "You will get off these people's lawn." Right?
Well, but before you go, like I go there first then. And I mean, I can let you go first for me. So I think it's a very complicated. It's a very complicated situation. It's a very complex thing. But I think the United States does.
I think some of the great art that came out of Rusty putting together Super Santa's a catharsis of his anxiety about his family over there.
That's wonderful, though, because that's when you get your best art and best writing. I do have to say this. Anytime I hear someone say something about Crimea River, I think of the song Crimea River, and it just really does a number on my head. I can't. It's like Crimea River. Okay, Crimea River. So
I'm guessing Bill warned you that we just got comics. We get geopolitical and shit here. So
yeah, and I was very touched when I was in London. I saw so many Ukrainian flags. So just flying from almost every building. That was very touching. That was cool.
Mark has one on his front yard. It's like huge.
There's a lot of support for Ukraine in the UK. A lot. We'd be big supporters. Our Prime Minister Boris Johnson and also Richie Sunak have been big supporters of Ukraine.
Yeah,
and any country that has a community.
Yeah. Oh, Mark, we lost you again.
They both have UK. They both have UK in their names too. Ukraine.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
And the thing is about Crimea. Actually, then you were talking about the name of Crimea. It's actually it's a Tatar word. So that's that's a native population of Crimean Peninsula that was wiped out by Russians several times during the Catherine the Great, first time, and second time during Stalin's era. All of these people, imagine, all of them were deported from their native land, and all 99% of the names of the cities and little towns and villages were changed from Tatar to Russian. So my basically goal is in my life, like I'm trying to help these people to go back, even though I am Tatar, but I'm not from the same ethnic group, but we're still close culturally. And I wish that Crimea would become a national autonomous region within Ukraine for these native people, because they suffered so much under Russian.
That's so sorry, so sad.
It's ridiculous. And my neighbors were teenagers when they were deported to Central Asia. That was a heartbreaking story. So my goal is just to help those people. I don't even care that much about my house there. Like as long as there will be back and living peacefully in their land, that would be my dream, I'd say. And Ukraine, I mean, Ukrainians don't have that imperial gene in their blood. They're just very, very tolerant people, actually. And every time I was there, it was just super nice. So,
they've been through so much crap. I mean, I don't think things really faze them like they would us over here, or in England. They've just been through so much. It's like, what else do you want to throw at us? It seems like
one of the themes we brought out in Super Santa, that as Americans, we're just spoiled rotten. We make a big deal out of everything, and we super everything up. And at the same time, we're all just a bunch of whiny brats. Not all of us, but
first world problems.
Culturally.
Absolutely.
And that's why we're bringing this international
Giddy over there. We're going to hit England next. I'm kidding.
And that's why we bring this international sort of angle to it, to kind of show that there's always a community, a family, like a support system outside that you can actually step in and help you out. But
Americans have tunnel vision. You know what I mean? It's like it's all about us all the time, and we don't really understand the world too well, and it might be better served. We might understand ourselves better if we get a little objectivity. That's another theme that we try to bring.
True.
Well, I grew up a teenage middle American prick, and then I went in the Marines and saw the world and went, yeah,
Yeah, that's
I
exactly
don't
right.
deserve the shit I got.
Right, right.
Guys,
about
it's been great meeting you, and I look forward to reading Super Santa.
Thank
And
you
we'll
so
put a
much,
review
Mark.
up.
You know, Bill, if you
We'll
could
put a
share
review
contact
up.
information, we'll, you know, we could.
You got it. You got it.
Wonderful.
Bye,
Yeah.
Mark.
Bye, Mark.
Yeah, he's 5 hours ahead of us on the East Coast here.
Yeah,
So
it's tea time.
ready to wipe out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I know he's going to watch it later. All right, let's get back down to earth here. All right, Mookie, influences, favorites.
Yeah, on the writing side, I'm a huge Hunter S. Thompson fan.
Oh,
So, you know,
little Gonzo Santa.
That's exactly it. It's Gonzo Santa. You got Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, where that narrative is just cooking at 120 miles per hour, like the Mint 300 that he talks about. You know, My Time with the Hell's Angels, where it's down and gritty and real, kind of documentary.
So great. All of that stuff is so wonderful.
It's so wonderful. It's just fast. It's engaging. It's intense, and that kind of almost cinematic kind of style I really, really like. And with
so
that,
Rusty is your Steadman.
Ralph Steadman. I was just going to bring him up. He's one of the best artists. You know, a very distinctive style. Just those ink splashes and all that crazy intensity. I love that. And, you know, on the other side of the house, too, Henry Miller, which is just the reality of relationships and him just falling through life. So I like that kind of style where it's freewheeling, but at the same time very evocative of real people and real situations, oftentimes pretty messed up. And William S. Burroughs, I love him. You know,
I knew you were going to go there. I don't know why.
Naked Lunch, I think, is just an American masterpiece. I read that in high school, and I thought it was a bunch of gibberish. I didn't understand a single word. And then it took me like 10 more years of growing up and reading, and I was like, holy cow, this is a masterpiece.
What book was that?
Naked Lunch.
Naked Lunch, that's what I thought you said. Yeah, I love that book. And I love the Cronenberg movie also, by the way.
Yeah, that's very trippy. Yeah, and the reason I like all that stuff is it really does a great job of blending fantasy and reality. And what I learned more than anything,
and media inferences also.
Yeah,
you know, you have this train of thought going on the entire time Burroughs worked, where anything can come into anything,
right?
And that was new and different. And I have a feeling Burroughs had something to do with shaping Elmore Leonard's way of.
I think so.
Yeah.
Even Thomas Pynchon, like, you know, big Thomas.
I think so. Pynchon, yeah.
I agree. There's a direct connection there,
you
know, with some of the themes and stuff, and you know. That blend between fantasy and reality, where if you really want the fantasy to work, you got to ground it in reality.
Yeah.
The descriptions have to be precise. It has to be specific. And if you want the reality to work in conjunction with the fantasy, you need to exaggerate those fantastic elements, right? And then connect the dots between the two. You can't have one without the other. And when Rusty and I were working on the early drafts of this, you know, I came to the realization that there was a whole parallel narrative to the Super Santa story. The original screenplay that we wrote back in 2009, it was mostly Super Santa. It was about Santa, the elves, all that stuff. And it had the family in it, but in a kind of a cursory way. And when we had this big brush and this huge palette of an entire novel, I realized that we had to bring that family to life in an emotional kind of way. We need to bring the relationship to life in an emotional way. And then, you know, that's a risk we took with this too. So when you read the book, it's kind of like two intertwined books in one, with a very kind of, you know, everyday relationship family kind of thing going on. And then you have Santa and the elves and the snarky reindeer, right? All kind of blended together. And we felt, you know, if this thing is going to work, if this experiment is going to be successful, then the two really need to be symbiotic. They need to feed off of each other. And if you read it, it should come across naturally, not like, you know, now we're going to jump into a new world, but the two worlds need to blend together. And
combine. I like that.
Yeah, and Rusty's artwork really helped make that happen, because when he renders Santa Claus, you know, in the Super Santa style, as we call it, and then he renders Jack and Diane and the kids, and then when Santa starts interacting with the real characters, and then we introduce the superheroes, the real superheroes, they all start visually blending together.
Yes.
And that's when it starts to snap, I think, because that's really our goal, which is we live in a crazy place in America in 2023. Fantasy is reality, up is down. Everything is nuts. And that's part of it. That's what we're trying to bring out, which is like half the time we're just living in a dream. Like none of this makes much sense. And
I live in Texas. So I mean,
right.
You know, I'm a liberal in Texas. I mean, there are a lot more of us than people think. But, the state is so big, all the boonies and all the little towns, they combined are larger by volume than the big cities, because there's so many little towns. So you'll have us and Austin and sometimes Dallas pulling for the Democrat side, you know, like in presidential elections. But then you'll have, it'll completely get undermined by all these little towns where everybody believes, you know, Trump is God. You know, it's so strange.
Yeah, what we
so
tried to
strange.
do in Super Santa too, we really conscientiously tried to take a nonpartisan and balanced point of view, because, you know, the progressive left, both Rusty and I feel, are sometimes as crazy as right.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
We didn't want to play favorites with this book.
And I call myself a liberal, but
right.
that sometimes people think, oh, so you're far to the left. I'm actually more centrist, because sometimes I get what they want to do on the right, but they never do it right. They always do it like some effed up way. You know, it's almost like sometimes they have a good idea, but they totally screw it up by how they do it.
Hey, Bill, we're on British television. You can say fucked.
Oh yeah, I forgot. But
and I gotta say, the best news of the day, though, or the best news of yesterday, Tario got 22 years from a dump lawyer. Oh my God, I will never stop laughing at that.
Yeah, but if Trump wins in 2024, he's going to be the first guy who gets pardoned. So
I don't. You know what? I have faith that that's not going to happen. I hope he's found guilty before that, so he'll have a felony conviction and he can't run again.
Yeah.
I mean, but
you can't work on extremes. You know, the pendulum's got to hang in the middle. As long as you don't swing too far to either side, let it hang in the middle. I can talk to anybody about anything. Once you start swinging way out there, you're gone.
No, I agree.
You're gone.
Yeah, and we tried to bring that out in the book, that, you know, Media Frenzy, that robot, plays video clips of news stories and movies, and he's the embodiment of just all the noise that's out there, and it's really designed to manipulate you. It's designed to control you. The TV monitors are on his tentacles physically.
Yes, I love that.
The tentacles will grab you and play the video clips in your face. And what that is
kind of like Clockwork Orange with keeping the eyes.
You gotta look at this shit.
And they live by consume.
Right. That's the whole theme of that robot. And he's in cahoots with Mr. Astonishing. And you know, and Mr. Astonishing is a hyperbole. You know, it's what's astonishing about him? Well, we find out, but you know, it's all about big business on the one hand and special interests on the other, and we're all going crazy on each side of the aisle, the extreme left, the extreme right. And that's one of the things we try to focus on in the book, which is we're all supered up. Santa Claus decides to become a superhero because he lacks the self-confidence to really endure a comment from some snot-nosed kid. Yeah. And then we read some shit on social media, and all of a sudden we're a political activist, right? And we're a radical. We're sensitized, we're oversensitive, we're overreactive. And to your point you made earlier, we got it made. You know what I mean? Our standard of living is still so good, and yet we're killing each other over bullshit. And that's one of the primary themes of Super
Whoever
Santa.
dies with the most toys wins.
100%.
So Rusty,
Nailed it.
I have to ask you this, Rusty. I absolutely love what Pussy Riot has done to the UK. No, I mean they're I mean, of course the name gets a lot of chuckles and stuff, but I think they've done more for like the people than the government has in decades. I mean, and I love that they are so vocal and that they've done so much to help the people just get through this. What do you think about them?
I think they're cool. I mean, it's because Russian dictatorship is based on support from the official church, Russian church, and it's always been. It was kind of like almost entirely destroyed during Lenin's time, and it was rebuilt by Stalin. But all of the priests were KGB officers. Many of them were. So,
wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and they're very, very entangled with the government. They're absolutely loyal to the government and everything. So, and I guess doing these performances in main, like cathedral in Russia, or just kind of ridiculing that government that tries to present itself as very serious and very important, I think it's always a good thing. It's all about freedom of speech, expression, freedom of expression.
Exactly.
They're cool. They're cool kids, and they did awesome stuff. I mean, obviously, people were so outraged because of the propaganda on TV, like they did something,
well, they all did Hard Time too, because it's the church thing. That was just so sad.
Riot had balls.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. They also had chicken, but we won't go
That's
there.
something Kyle would say.
I think it's again, this is the theme of our book too. Like when we're trying to show that everything looks awesome from outside, Christmas tradition, everything is just perfect. But there's a crisis actually.
You strip away the veneer and you see the real fight.
We did a Legos callback. Everything is awesome. That's as much as I'm singing that song. No copyright.
So that's the theme. Like if it's not as much as you try to present yourself a certain way, there will be something like little thing that will show your true nature. Right. And that's what we're trying to achieve with this. Mr. Sunshine, he looks like celebrated superhero and this awesome guy. But then he's a little bit, his backstory will probably blow people's mind, actually, how he became who he is. With Nana Girl also, like, is a girl, she's absolutely powerful character, but deep inside, she's in very abusive relationship. She's abused woman. And Santa Claus, everything is great, but he's divorced. He has a midlife crisis.
Mrs. Claus left.
Elf thinks like everything is worked like a clock in the North Pole, but he's losing control over all operations. Everything is falling apart. So that's the same theme, Like
I love that.
When artists go and do that, they attack that status quo, or that it's always a good thing because it will reveal the problems. It will get us to a new level and make us better.
All right. So Santa Claus is basically eternal. How many centuries is a midlife crisis?
Right.
Is he 1,000 years old?
Yeah, you bring up a great point that maybe, just maybe, Santa's time has come to pass the reign to someone else. So that's just
there you go.
Who could that be?
Kind of a giveaway there. All right, Nate, you've also referred to this numerous times as a screenplay. So obviously you're a video file. What are your favorite movies?
Tell Kyle about your how you made it more for kids in the first place, and then you went to.
Yeah, Mookie, tell this whole story about how we got to where we are now.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, Rusty and I are in the agency. We meet in the kitchen because we got ADHD and we're up from our desks every 10, 15 minutes. We keep running into each other. We share a lot in common. He's an emigre. My parents are from Hungary, Romania. So America is kind of a strange place for both of us. And then we kindle a friendship, and we realize we're both creative people. And then Rusty comes at me with this idea of a bunch of Santa Clauses from throughout the world help grant a young girl's wish. That's how this whole thing started. And then I go, that's interesting, but we need bad guys in this story. And within about a week, I threw in that Super Santa element. We thought of the kids seeing them, and then the story started to come together. Fast forward about 4 or 5 months, we finished the screenplay. And then Rusty tries to peddle it around in Hollywood. He has some connections at at DreamWorks, at Pixar. You knew some people, and it's hard to get something optioned in the industry unless you're really in the industry, because everybody and their grandma wants to get their content produced. So then I proposed to Rusty that we write a kid's book. Let's make a book out of this story, because the story is pretty fun. We start writing it, and then we're kind of like, we're just kind of going through the motions. The idea is bigger than that. And then the idea strikes me of where we're at right now, which is let's turn it into a novel. And instead of it being a kid's story, let's have it reflect the themes of our times. Let's enable us to do what we really want to do as artists. I love Hunter S. Thompson. I love William S. Burroughs. I don't want to write a kid's book. And Rusty has all these ideas for grotesque images and powerful kind of graphics. Let's do what we want to do and let the audience come to us. And that's how we arrived at Super Santa being an illustrated satirical Hollywood novel for a holiday novel for ostensibly people who have a sophisticated view of things, appreciate social commentary, and aren't offended by dirty Santa Claus jokes. And that's basically the 3 acts.
That's one of the best movies ever made.
Yeah.
And I think one thing I wanted to add, when we were ready, we had decided to start with writing a novel. We had like a crisis at first. We moved very slowly, and then we couldn't figure out what kind of slow us down. And then Michael said to me one day, he said, let's not pretend that we're someone else. Let's just write the same way, use the same language as we speak every day. And I said, you know what? Let me draw cartoons the way I want them to draw. Grotesque yet sophisticated with some shadowing, and let's just do whatever we feel most comfortable, with.
And it comes across so well because you guys approached it that way, and that's why I'm so excited that that Kyle and Mark are both looking forward to reading it, because it's it's wonderful. I really can't say it enough. I don't know. I want to give it as a Christmas gift to people, but I worry that some of the people I'd give it to aren't deep enough to appreciate it.
Yeah, it's not for everybody.
No, it's not. It's not. But you know what? It's the message and of the book is universal, I think. I think it's kind of like the struggle is real, life in general. But even for Santa, things aren't easy.
Right.
And he even has a huge crisis in his own mind of how do I reinvent myself to where I'm important again, where people think of me as somebody that they need to listen to or pay attention.
As Bill disappears. All right.
Yeah, I think he got short-circuited by the supervillains.
I'm thinking Bill's camera's running out of juice quickly.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Someone decided to call in the middle of everything, and it made my phone fall off of my little...
No worries, but I think you're bang on point, which is, we have these, these idols, right? It's kind of the twilight of the idols. You have these legends, these heroes. Right. And they're from a prior age, and we live in a digital world of instant gratification, where everyone
instant coverage, 24-hour news cycle,
24/7. Yeah. Santa is relevant one night a year. One night a year he shines, and that night a year nobody is supposed to see him.
Well,
so
screw that.
I'm
That doesn't happen.
So in contrast to that, you have this new franchise of superheroes who are real people, real celebrities who are tweeting and posting and doing press conferences 24/7, 365. And Santa wants a piece of the action. And guess what? He ruins Christmas.
Yeah, no, he does. And that's not even giving anything away, because how that happens is so hilarious. Okay, now we have the Big Lebowski as Santa here. Thank you, Kyle.
If it wasn't so fucking hot, I'd put on my whole Santa kit, but I just couldn't do it. I couldn't put on the beard. And the
Whatever, man.
The Santa abides.
Yes, Santa abides. I love that. Look,
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
But well, you know, I have to say this: we're actually, believe it or not, we're at 2 hours. I mean, we started a little late, but I have to say, I guess we'll bring this to a close for this week, folks. But I have not had this much fun on the podcast in ages. I'm glad Mark was here.
Yeah, wonderful.
Of course, I'm always glad Kyle's here, but Kyle and I seem to be the standard bearers lately. But we miss Gray, and we miss Nevs, and we miss Johnny this week. Hope you guys come back next week. But honestly, Mookie and Rusty, this has been a fantastic podcast, and I hope people pick the book up after this, because honestly,
we got pre-booking commitments. They done promise to come back for book 2. They done promise.
Yeah, so you guys will be back. But
we get you in October. We get you in December.
Yeah,
I'm gonna hold you guys to it.
We can do it for October, book 2, book 3. And if you want, we can share the feedback of what we got in the box set for the Christmas.
There you go.
I would love that.
The only thing I'd have to worry about is if Neil Gaiman gets back in touch with me, I might have to bump you one day for Neil Gaiman.
I get it. You know, maybe Neil and us could collaborate, because another influence of mine is the Sandman series, his original one with all the different artists.
Oh yeah, with Mike Triggenberg, who's a friend of mine, by the way, and Sam Keith, and all those guys. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
That
was some wonderful
classic
stuff.
Classic stuff. And talk about fantasy and reality meshing in together. You know?
And we can go into your cinephile stuff, because you keep saying screenplay. You say he's connected in Hollywood. Yeah. We could talk movies too. We could talk movies all day long if you want.
Yeah. Well, let's
Rusty, I want to give you both. I want to give both of you guys a final word on everything. Rusty, why don't you start off?
Well, again, you know, as I said before, this means a lot to us to see people who are excited. Even some of you haven't read the book yet, but Bill, I think, was very, very, you know, as I said, you know, to touch every point that we wanted to make in the book. So I think it means a lot to us that you gave us your time and give us this, you know, platform to talk about our book that we love so much. And I just wanted to say that we had so much fun writing it. At some point, I think Michael told me, like, you know what, if nothing else happens with this book, if it doesn't go anywhere, I had so much fun that I feel this, you know, a feeling of fulfillment.
That's beautiful, though, and I love, and it comes across so well in the book, and I think everybody that picks it up is going to get that. I really do. Now, Mookie, what do you have to say? I know you have a lot to say. So.
I can't shut the hell up. But I'll dovetail off of what Rusty said. It was a real joy and pleasure working with Rusty and partnering up. And I want to convey his sentiment that the greatest satisfaction we got was taking down the filters. Don't be anyone you're not. Don't do anything you think you have to do. And Picasso said that, you know, learn the rules as a pro so that you can break them as an artist. And we did our best to honor the rules of illustration, of cartooning and craftsmanship. I did my best in the writing in terms of making the writing solid as I could and as, you know, easy for the reader to embrace and enjoy. And at the same time, we just let it loose. We're going to do the book
yeah.
that we want. And if you guys love it, please embrace it, you know, buy it, review it, do whatever. But the inspiration that Rusty and I want to convey to everyone watching in your life, just be yourself and do it. You're always going to piss some people off. You're going to have other people going to love you anyway. And most people aren't going to give a shit. So there's the bell curve. Just be yourself and do it. And be true to yourself and work hard. And
Well,
and
that
shit
kind
might
of gave me
happen.
an idea
Work
for the
through it.
soundtrack I'm going to be playing when I'm reading it. You know, a little classic punk. Pablo Picasso was an asshole.
Right, right.
That'd be a good one to listen to while watching it.
Right. So we hope you love it. Thanks so much, guys, for hosting us and having a lively conversation.
We'll see you very soon, guys. And the three of us will have to talk after this. But guys, thank you so much. And Kyle, thanks as usual for you being my partner in crime here.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Rock
Bye,
and
guys.
roll.
Have a great night.
Is Gray watching? Is he going to cut us off here? Or
I don't know. I don't know. Good night, folks. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Our board is in the UK right now, so if London don't cut me off, I'm gonna keep talking until he cuts me off. We can keep on talking, but Bill bailed out. But you know, if Graham, anytime you want to cut it loose, is he gonna say something in the thread here? Splat, thank you for hanging out with us. For all the people that hung out with us in the chat, nobody in the chat asked any questions. I tried to keep an eye on it, but I try and keep them interactive. But
you're great. You're right. Let's share contact info and like share our shit. You know, that'd be great.
You know, you guys went global today. You literally went global. You know, by the end of the week, you're going to be in Essex, England. Nice. We're going to be talking about you next week on the show. We're going to be talking about you on Mark's Whatnot. He'll probably show it off on his Whatnot sales and things like that. So we're going to get a lot of eyes on this stuff. You know, if it's good,
we appreciate it.
If it's good, it's going to stand on its own. It ain't going to take the hype, but you're going to get it. So.
Yeah, and of course, if you share your info, we would love to send at least signed illustration print or something like that.
Man,
so
that'd be brilliant. You know, I get with Bill on that and stuff, but you know, I'm a big sucker. I want my library to be filled with personalized stuff.
Oh, you got
I'd love to take you guys up there. You start talking about these books, and I'm like, oh, Hunter Thompson here. Let me pull this off the shelf. Oh,
right. And especially we have a special, special sort of feelings for people who gave us this sort of, who trusted us from the beginning, from the start. Yeah. So that gives us a little bit more confidence. And
I mean, Bill vouched for you guys, so you're good with us.
All right.
You know, that's our
and
little group
if you
here.
hate it, blame him. No.
Yeah. Well, I mean, our little group here, we trust each other. You know, when Bill said, "Hey, can I do these guys?" I'm like, "Well, sure, absolutely. If you think it's that good, if you guys aren't intimidated by the fact, like 2 weeks ago, I had on my favorite comic writer, JMD Mateus, and for a second go around, I got a third one coming up later this year, and I picked his brain about historical comics." And if you didn't feel bad about being on that par, and it's like, all right, great, good.
Yeah, we'll bring it. We'll take it.
Get in there, hype your stuff. I'm a walking hype machine. So
that's awesome. Yeah.
And it's a good thing I'm sick, or I would have never shut up. I need to shut up and let people do the talking.
Yeah, it's the shoulders the giants kind of strategy. So we'll be like Elf in our book. Just keep crawling up.
Yeah.
I'm still wondering. I keep checking the chat. Graham, are you even paying attention here?
He's
Let's
checked
see.
out.
We still ain't been cut loose. I don't see.
Usually
I see live, but it just says scheduled. But usually when he cuts us off, it just disappears. So I figure, but he's dealing with some stuff. He's got some pretty heavy stuff going on. His missus is going through chemo and things like that.
Yeah.
And I'm totally understanding. I'm fighting 2 types of cancer myself right now. Chain smoking to get over it. So
yeah.
World-class dumbass, but
well, part of it is the attitude. You know what I mean? If smoking calms you and makes you settled and happy, if you got a settled and happy attitude, that's going to keep you kicking probably.
Well, and I've been smoking more than 35 years, and the 2 cancers I got one of them, the worst one, the prostate cancer I have has zero to do with the fact I smoke.
Every
35 years
dude
smoking,
gets it. Every dude
near
gets it.
zero to do with it. Now the
Yeah.
bladder cancer, they said it's mildly affected by it.
Right.
But again, it's not one of them lung or skins or anything like that.
Well,
You figure
hang in there, buddy. You know, they say the more you complain, the longer God lets you live. So just
well, I'm just a
keep
kvetching
bitching.
old putz, so I get on here, I kvetch, and then I get geopolitical, and I start slamming things down, and people are like, well, you're slamming too far that way. It's like, I can slam the other way.
Yeah.
You know, most people know me because I basically have told 7 presidents to fuck a rolling donut. So, a nice way to put it. I've given my peace of mind to 7 different presidents.
Well, you rock, Kyle. Thank you so much. Let's keep in touch.
Absolutely. Greg, you need to be cutting this up. Or
Thanks
I'm
for dressing up.
Fucking talking to people.
Yeah.
But I am looking forward to this so much. You know, I know
right.
Bill will be in touch with me. Bill will be in touch with you
Okay,
guys.
and we love honest opinions because you know we're gonna finalize book 2 and 3. We got reindeer shit in book 2 that wasn't there before. Thanks
There
to
you
Bill.
go.
So you know.
But yeah, from what he showed in the artwork, it's brilliant. The layout, it's right up my alley.
Awesome.
You know,
and we might have to put more of the British
that's...
Santa Claus in there, Rusty, because of Mark.
Yeah, but we have that in the very last scene. Remember?
Yeah,
we have all of them there.
We'll crank it up. We'll get some promo. We'll get some Father Christmas Brit promo in there.
And even bad reviews will go to the back cover of our book. So
the schmoozer in me never goes away. Now I've been Santa Claus in my family, and I worked with the developmentally disabled, so I was like group home Santa for 25 years.
Awesome.
So, but the schmoozer in me just wants to kick it up a notch and go, hey, you know, I can send you guys some pictures of me, and you've seen me in this hat. You know, why don't you draw me into one of the comics? Even call me by name, you know, because
but actually,
how cool would that be? But you know, I'd sign off likeness rights, but you're already set for these.
No, Rusty. Actually, if you send Rusty a picture of you in a hat, he could, not to speak for Rusty, but I know he'll do it. He'll do a custom little drawing for you.
Oh, I'd just say, you know, stick me in a panel in the back of a page. And,
he'll draw
you know,
it. Right?
I'd be great with that.
Rusty would love to do that for you.
Absolutely.
I was the Santa for my family, but I'll let you guys go, even though.
All right, and then make an NFT out of it. Make an NFT and make $1 million.
I'm guessing what, 2nd or 3rd week in October, end of October
for the 2nd book.
Probably.
Yeah.
Rusty's birthday is the 6th, and it's kind of creeping up, but we're really going to try to get the 2nd book.
The 5th.
The 5th, right? The 6th is like day after.
So what do we shoot for? The end of October, beginning of November?
Well, the 2nd book, book 2 in early October, book 3 in early November.
But when do you want to be on again? Is what I'm saying.
Oh,
do you want to be on like the
early October? Early
October
October for the 2nd book. Early October, we can do that.
All right, we can plan on that in early October, early November, and we'll hype those, and we'll get you guys lined up to be in that spot and get a little heads up, because we post this stuff out too in forums in the UK and things like that. Because again, this is a UK show.
Yeah.
You know, it's my baby that I kind of rustled up with Graham, but I don't want to be on TV. So I got a face for radio. I'll keep it there. So, all right. Well, thank you, fellas, for coming in.
You're best, Kyle.
We'll sign out.
Thank you.
We'll take care of it. Mark, Mookie, Rusty, take care, guys.
Thanks so much. We really appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
We'll see you in a month.
Yep, you got it.